So before we start this video, I just want to say thank you so much for the support on the videos in the last week or two. Our channel has been growing at a fast rate that I never had anticipated. So I just want to take a moment to extend my appreciation and my gratitude for all of the new fans that we have here on this channel. Thank you for sticking around, and I promise you won't be disappointed if you're a big fight fan just like I am. This channel is all about combat, so if you're interested, please subscribe and we can talk about combat all day, baby. Anyways, so Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko had their anticipated rematch about a week ago, and it was an amazing fight. A great women's fight. These two women are so skilled and evenly matched that if you're a pure MMA fan, you would honestly appreciate this fight to the highest, except for one part, and we'll get into that later. This fight showed how the women's flyweight division in the UFC has evolved. For the longest time, this division never got the credit it deserved. The narrative was that the division was not as skilled as the bantamweight or strawweight division. Yet today we have two of the best pound for pound women in the UFC, and they're both in the flyweight division. There's a ton of talent in this division as well, which can shape up for a ton of great fights. So because I have quite a few things I want to say about this fight, I'm going to break down this fight very briefly. So the fight ended in a majority draw, and as always, there's going to be controversy. It always ends like this. Whenever there's a draw or a close fight, always expect there to be at least some sort of chaos in the MMA community. I thought Alexa Grasso did very well to create big moments in the fight that swung in her favor, and especially in MMA, depending on how the fight goes, it can be very big for you in the scoring criteria. Grasso was landing the more effective shots, however, Valentina looked like she was outpointing Alexa Grasso and was much more active and in control of the majority of the fight. Grappling exchanges looked like they were 50-50 with ground control and submission attempts from both sides. The first thing I noticed from Valentina is that she did very well to take away Grasso's orthodox stance. Grasso doesn't normally fight in the southpaw stance, but because she's fighting Valentina, she has to adapt. And you can see that just from Grasso being in the orthodox stance, Valentina immediately looked to attack the body with kicks. This forced Grasso to immediately forfeit the orthodox stance. Secondly, I thought the best strikes from Valentina came from when she was inside the clinch or from the head-to-head range. From this range, she was able to land knees and elbows that cut Alexa Grasso open. This did wonders for her in the damage department. Thirdly, the jab from Valentina worked against Grasso in their last fight, and it did again in this fight. She was much more active with her lead jab, however, she was in a jab battle. She needed to do something different in order to lead in this battle, and her adjustment was pulling after jabbing. In this way, Grasso can't look to counter over the top with a straight left hand. Lastly, the one thing that stood out to me was Valentina's championship IQ. She did very well to read Grasso's tendencies and patterns and creating solutions for them right on the spot. And this speaks volumes about her championship experience as well. There were so many moments where Grasso was leading with a 1-2, but Valentina was able to either slide her head out, pull counter, or drop down for a level change. This was how she was able to lure Alexa Grasso to initiate, and once she got to the body lock, she was able to hit them trips. Once she got to the hips, she was able to get to the double leg and control her on the ground. And as far as for Alexa Grasso, firstly, when she did get taken down, she did very well to defend herself off of her back. She was making it very difficult for Valentina to posture up and inflict damage. She was throwing a ton of shots off of her back and created some crucial scrambles that created a ton of close rounds. Secondly, her timing with the southpaw jab was phenomenal. A closed southpaw stance battle with a jab, and Alexa Grasso did very well to jab with Valentina. This was the main thing that gave her issues in the last fight, and it gave her issues again in this fight. However, she had an answer in this fight by timing her southpaw jab right as Valentina stepped in with her jab. But doesn't that mean that Grasso will get hit as well? Yes, but there's a difference. The difference is that, thirdly, Grasso did a great job of tucking her chin. She was perfectly hiding her chin behind her shoulders and her hands. So that's why when they both jab, Grasso lands a cleaner jab to the chin, whereas Valentina lands a jab to the forehead. And if you know anything about fighting, you would know that landing a shot to the forehead as opposed to landing on the chin is a whole different story. It's how you see fighters' heads pop up when they get hit. It's the most eye-catching thing in fighting, and judges can also see that as well. Lastly, let's talk about her knockdown against Valentina. I thought she did very well to keep her base. If you watch the sequence again, you can see that both fighters step in with a jab and try to follow up with a straight left hand, but they both get their head off the center line. Then they both try to follow up with the same shot, but the difference is that Grasso was able to keep her balance and switch to orthodox to land a powerful right hand. Valentina moved her left foot and tried to move to her right, so because because of that, her base isn't there and her hips are squared. Power comes from the ground, and Grasso took note of that. Little details like this is what makes a very big difference. They both had the same idea, but because Grasso had better technique and execution, she was able to create the much bigger moment. And after watching that fight back, I honestly believe that Valentina was the better fighter. She was one step ahead of Grasso for most of the fight. She was adapting more to Grasso than Grasso adapting to Valentina. If you watch the fight again, you can see that Grasso didn't make too many changes to what Valentina was doing. Grasso made the same mistake on like 3 or 4 different exchanges in the title fight. That shouldn't happen. Not to take anything away from Alexa Grasso, it's just Valentina made some poor mistakes in timely moments of the fight that made it very close. And again, in MMA where the scoring heavily favors damage, anything can change in a matter of seconds. So I want to touch on 2 things here. And you thought that we weren't going to talk about the 10-8 score in round 5 by Mike Bell? Oh my god, was it abysmal. Bro, I had the same facial expression as Nick Young when I saw that 10-8 score in round 5. There is absolutely no reason why that round should be a 10-8 under any circumstances. The 3 Ds for scoring a 10-8: duration, dominance, and damage. Grasso did not score highly in any of those 3 categories to score a 10-8. She just didn't. She was getting her head jabbed off in that round before she reversed the inside trip attempt from Valentina. It's about time judges need to be held accountable for their decisions. These fighters spend weeks out of their training camp away from home and family. These 3 guys have a very important job that can change these people's lives. People put their life into this game. For some people, this is the only thing that they do. A win or a loss can do so much for their life and their career. And you see the title of this video. I'm saying Valentina got robbed, but not in the way that you think. It's a close fight. Usually there are no robberies if it's a close fight. If you told me that you thought Alexa Grasso won the fight, I wouldn't argue it. But judging how the fight was scored, if round 5 was scored correctly by Mike Bell, which is a 10-9 for Grasso, Valentina would be a 2-time flyweight champion right now. And that's big for her resume. When she decides to call it quits, being a 2-time champion is very big for what you have achieved. But now it's stolen away from her from someone that is quote-unquote a professional judge. However, the main point that I want to make that I don't think anyone is wanting to admit is that the UFC is slowly turning into boxing. And before you start to attack me by saying that I'm wrong and that boxing is much more corrupted, really think about it. Go back in the last 2 years or so in the UFC and count how many blunders and mistakes that the judges in the UFC have made. Matter of fact, I think it's actually more than boxing this year. People always want to point fingers at boxing for having terrible judging, but as of lately, the UFC is not any different. There has been a ton of unexplainable decisions that have been worse than boxing. I remember when so many MMA fans complained about boxing when people thought Loma was robbed against Devin Haney, but I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, the UFC is not that much different compared to boxing. And don't just pay attention to main card fights, even prelim fights. Prelim fights are being scored incorrectly more than boxing. This is just my opinion, but I truly believe that it's the truth. I just think that boxing had a very worse image in terms of judging for the last few years. And because boxing is no longer as popular as it used to be, that's the only thing that people really look at, the corruption side of things. But slowly the UFC is creeping its way up to that point. And that is it, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to what I have to say, and let me know, who did you have winning between Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko? How do you feel about the judging in the UFC? Drop a comment and let me know in the comment section down below. Now, if you guys enjoy content that is related to combat sports, please drop a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel down below. That would be greatly appreciated. And if you can't get enough of the content on this channel, please head over to my Twitter to check all of my latest tweets about combat sports. And other than that, it's been Steven, signing out. Peace.